Hello, Thack from Thack Ironworks. We are several videos deep into the series on making the Gladiator helmet here, and things are starting to come together. So, in the last video, we did the crest. It is now bolted into place. I could remove that, but I just spent the last little bit doing some templating for the bottom portion here. Let me just show you what is going on. So we need to put a back brim flap, that piece on there, and then also the front brim there. Let's just reference our old helmet, the original inspiration helmet, just to see where we're going with that. So here's our original design here, and you can just see focusing on this whole brim affair thing here. So we've got to get those pieces in, which are straightforward enough. After that, we've got to do the pieces for this. Rather than having something that hinges at the front, I want to do my piece where the two face pieces are split down the middle and hinge in and come in thusly. That makes sense. This is the template that I have come up with. See if it makes any sort of sense. So two pieces coming together here to form a hinge. This will come up like that. This will then fit in like that. The eye opening here and this coming down at the neck piece. Counterintuitive as to what the template in the two-dimensional form looks like as to what it's going to look like 3D. A lot of shaping has to happen there. So let's see. I don't know. Do I know how this is going to work out? I don't know. We will have to see. Anyway, let's get into it. So here's, I've just done forming on this back plate here, and you can see how it actually fits into position there, and that's for the time being bolts on there. That will be riveted to the rim there. I need to do a little bit more work here to get these pieces to mate in properly. I had to bring this up to hit the crest and just make a nice visually appealing transition there. So there you can see back piece, pretty straightforward as far as a piece of this goes. It's the simplest piece so far. I've got the wire rolled edge in here, which has stiffened this whole thing up. So that's that piece. Let's do the same thing to the front brim now, where I'll have to start by rolling my wire bead. So about a centimeter. Hey, I'm using the metric system. I've got a line here. That will be my guide for rolling the wire bead. Let's begin. All right, so what I've taken is the edge here, about a ½ inch or a centimeter, and brought that back to a 90 and then a little bit beyond. Say I'm going 3/4 of my turn here. I've got that laying in. I'm almost ready now to put my wire in, which is actually 1/8 inch rod. I'll be slipping that piece in here. This is a pretty nice easy piece because it's got a gentle radius throughout, no sudden changes in direction. A little trickier when you're doing stuff like that. That's a harder transition to make, and it's a little trickier to do. This one should be quite easy. Before I go any farther though, this is work hardened quite a bit now. So what I want to do is anneal this whole thing. So I'm going to go over to the forge and bring it up to an orange, put it in water. That will soften it up. So I'm going to start with a nice soft baseline to tuck that wire in. Okay, so I've got my wire shoved in there. Now what I want to do is tuck that. So roll an area around, kind of tuck it in, grab it. Now what I need to do is push down, keep it tight against there. So I'm bending it more than it actually needs to follow the radius, so that it is putting tension down in there. I want to keep it tight to wherever I'm working and then work my way to the outsides. Sometimes I have to take like a chisel or a flat screwdriver and push it down, tap it in there, and then lock it in to be able to get it in place. But again, this is a pretty easy radius, so I'm able to probably just do it by doing a little bit more of a curve and then pushing it against the back edge. All right, so what I've done is just take a dull cold chisel there, and I've dropped that ridge down. So from the inside there, you can see that's what it looks like. From the outside, quite an attractive safety edge that is also structurally quite strong. So I've just done this on the flat, and now what I'm going to do is just dish the whole thing to get the curvature for the front of the brim. I can actually do that right here in my shot bag. Something like that. Okay, so just naturally letting it curve like this, I've dished it into shape. Let's just check it out and see. Be going on like that. That's actually not too far off from what it needs to be. So I'm just going to refine some of the bumps on here, and then I think I might be able to get right on to trying to fit this in place. I actually like the natural curvature of it there. Might need a little manipulation. Let's see what happens. So I've just taken this radius here and just roughly planished things into shape, evening out all the anomalies. Trying to get the shape regular. I don't have to do a whole lot more shaping, so I could go right to that. Also, right now, I've got the English wheel set up on my table here. Not something that I use very often, but I think this is an instance where we actually have access and just a smooth, unbroken shape where we're able to utilize the attributes of the English wheel. So why don't we jump on that for something fun? As I said, I don't usually use the English wheel. The type of stuff I tend to do, armor is very sculptural with sudden changes in direction. Doesn't really lend itself well to getting into doing that. I happen to be working on a project right here where I'm doing some bronze fenders for a motorcycle, and this is the perfect sort of venue where I can get in and smooth out a shape like this, and this is really what the wheel is designed for. But in this case, for our little piece here, we're just going to run it through there, and you'll see how it smooths out anomalies. Cool thing about the English wheel is it's the only quiet sheet metal working tool in the entire shop. It's very unusual in that respect. So it's actually quite nice sometimes to be able to just get on here and not have such a violent process. So I've got some fitting to do now, and once I've got this in there tight, I might have to grind away a little bit here to get it to seat in there properly on the curvature. I was considering annealing this again so I can move it easier, but the thing is, when you're making bronze armor, you want at a certain point to stop annealing it and let the piece work harden. Right now, this piece has work hardened quite a bit. There's still some shaping to do, but not a lot, so I might be able to get away without it. So ideally, if I don't have to anneal it now, it's got some structure from its work hardening, and that's going to optimize its performance as far as a piece of armor. So I'm going to probably try not to do any annealing on this. I may have to do something on the ends here, depending how that transition looks. So I'm gonna mess around with that. I think that's pretty boring stuff for the sake of video. So we'll put this aside for now. Let's get into cutting out the face pieces. Okay, so that piece is now annealed. I heated it up to some color, some orange, and then quenched it in water, so it is now annealed. This is going to go through some really dramatic shaping. It's really kind of hard to visualize what it is now. Even I'm having a hard time, and I designed it. So let's start dishing it and see what we can get. Needs a bit of refining still, but I think you get the idea. That's what we're doing. I got my work cut out for me. A lot of shaping on this one. Okay, a little bit of pounding has happened, and what I now have is this piece here. So you can see where it's supposed to fit in there. Of course, we've got to do the holes for the eyes yet, and there's a little bit more shaping to happen there, but you get the general idea. Now, what I need to do is start forming this into a hinge. I've got my piece here. This needs to be notched a little bit more, and then these rolled into a hinge joint. Once that is hinged there, this will be able to open up. So that's what I'm working on right now. Let's start rolling the hinge. Here we are, progress. So you can see what I've done is I took my rim there, which I had folded up on the correct angle, and I actually notched it to create the down notches to hold this piece in here. So that is fiddly. Let's just take a look at this piece. So I've built my integral hinge here, and I've got everything working now nicely on that. These will be riveted in place later in the program. But for right now, I just need to get everything positioned. So what I'm going to do next is start fitting this piece on, and then I need to start working on getting the closure to work here. And I'm going to be making a little tab coming off there to be in between there, and then a hook will go through that whole thing. You will see as we get to that also down here, I'll be bringing this over to make an integral hook dial sort of thing. At least that's my working plan. Let's see how it goes. This is turning out to be a very intricate and awkward piece to make, but I think it looks pretty cool. I really like how the lines are looking on this now. Yeah, let's just throw on the back brim here to give you an idea. Like that. So you can see a lot of fiddly fitting to do, but you can see what my actual outcome is. We really have all the pieces are now in play. So things are happening here. I don't think it's really worth you observing what I'm going to be doing with the fitting and stuff here. All I'm going to be doing is positioning some holes and fitting this other piece on, and then getting some tabs in there. So why don't you join me again in a few moments, and let's see if we can do something more visually stimulating for you, my viewer audience. Thank you. Goodbye. So I have tacked the pieces together here roughly, just bolted all the components in place here, minus the crest of course, just to kind of get me an overview of what my lines are for it. Cool, it's big. I actually showed this to my girlfriend last night and she said it looks kind of like an Easter bonnet. So I'm single now, obviously, and it's going to give me more time to work on this. But that aside, I'm quite happy with how things are coming out. Now my next step, actually, before we do that, let me just show you something here. Just for way of comparison, you can see the difference in scale. This is still a big helmet. It really reaches out in a lot of directions, but not quite as bulbous as the old one here. Really, as I'm getting into this one's looking more and more disgusting to me. So quite happy with how things are coming out. So next step is establishing where the eye holes are going to go, my grill that I need to drill and cut out. So I think what I need to do is have some lines. I've got so many radiating lines on this thing here. I think something to stiffen it up and just decorative wise. Here's my thinking. If I use something that just kind of arcs down, like that, and then my various holes are going to be in there. Okay, so we've got that line coming up into there, and then I think it might be nice, decorative wise, to have something that comes out. Like that. I'm just spitballing here. I don't know, maybe I'll do that, maybe I won't. I just like the way it comes in to this part here. I could even do another one. I might be getting carried away. Okay, so I've just roughed in the lines there. They need some fine tuning there to clean them up, and I will do that momentarily. But just want to show you the process for this. I put it onto my stake and I hit beside the edge. So I'm pushing it down, nudging it down while the stake is holding it up. And that is really the whole philosophy behind shaping a lot of things over stakes. Is the stake pushes it upwards, the hammer pushes it downwards. You create whatever landscape you're trying to do. So I've done a raised bead on here. I decided for here I was just going to have this drop down and keep this like two different planes there rather than having an actual bead there. It'll be easier for me cleaning up for one thing, but I just think visually it's kind of interesting that it transitions to something different. Now, I am often my own worst enemy, and when I start working on things, I see possibilities in design, and what I'm thinking here, and I might not do this, but what I think might be really kind of cool is to have a series of vertical lines creating kind of a grill. So when you're in the arena and someone's getting all up in your grill, you can say, "Get out of my grill." Sorry. Lame. Maybe not that. I don't know. Kind of looks cool. It looks kind of medieval though. I'm just wondering, am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? Only time will tell. I guess we'll see. Okay, so now I want to sharpen this up, and I'm using my camel toe punch for that, which is a very handy tool and something that I quite enjoy just looking at. So I'm just going to do that just to get more uniformity in my bead. All right, so I've roughed out my lines there. I need to anneal this now. It's work hardened quite a bit before I go on. You can see I sharpied in some lines there, which I think could look cool, but when I step back and look at it, I just can't get past it looking like a big cartoony grin. And I'm already working with the whole Easter bonnet thing and stuff, and this helmet's supposed to be badass, and I just don't want people laughing at me, and I just, my ego can't deal with that, so I'm going to forego those lines. Structurally, I think architecturally it would look pretty cool. I just can't get past the cartoon smile there. So anyway, moving on. I have now rough fitted the brims, the two pieces on there. So this is what it will look like. You can see on the inside here, I've got my tabs coming down that are going to receive that back portions with a hinge on them. These guys come on to there, something, somewhere, somehow, like that. So yeah, this been a lot, just a lot of hours to me. There's a lot going on here, and it's going to be a bit of a logistical clusterfuck for me to put these pieces together. Whether I do these pieces first is going to be then difficult to get the brim on. I'm just not sure which order I'm going to do it in. I'm thinking these guys go on first, but in any event, it's going to be some lively fun when I start actually riveting this thing together, but we're a little ways off from that. Today, I want to cut out my hole pattern for the eyes I did my little template here, so this allowed me to position what's going on. This might not make sense to you at this point in time, but it will, trust me. So this just allowed me to get my center punch mark so I could drill my starting holes, and then from there I can start grinding out the various shapes here to create a series of rings for the eyes. So we'll start with a 1/4-inch drill bit. I've got everything center punched already, and I'm just going to start drilling some holes. So I've drilled out my 1/4-inch holes. You can see that I actually painted the surface here, so I was able to pencil in my lines. All I had on hand when I did this was a brown paint, which is not the greatest contrast for my pencil marks, but I can still see what's going on here. So I've got 1/4-inch holes drilled out. These are just pilot holes. I'll go with bigger holes for my actual circle pieces. My star pieces are trapezoid, or I'm not even sure what shape that is. What I'm going to do now is go in with a tiny drill bit, 9/64 in fact, and just kind of get the corners drilled out just to remove some more material there. Alright, so I started the process with drills, various drill bits to get the holes roughed out. Then I went in with just a regular size die grinder there and sculpted out the shapes more or less. They're a little bit radius in the corners, and then I came in with my little this dental-like tool here to sharpen that up. Now to sharpen that up even more, I have got this little jeweler's saw that was loaned to me by my good friend Amy, who you may remember from the headboard project where she did the bee for me. Anyway, she loaned me this. It's got a diamond blade, it's called on here, but it's more like a file because it's multi-directional, and I really like that because once you get in, you can use it in any orientation and it will work. So I tried to do it to actually cut out these with just a hole in there, and it's intolerably slow for someone who lacks patience like myself, but it does work in being able to sharpen up the corners there. So let me just get this in position here and get it through. Very nice. So you get the idea. I still have a little bit more cleanup to do on that, but that is our grill there, which gives a lot of visibility and some air moving in there as well. So now I think I'm ready to really start. I've got to drill some holes here, get some rivets in, and then start doing the grinding and finishing on this. You can see I made a hook here. You'll see how that comes together as we start assembling things. I've got a little catch for the other piece there. So I wouldn't say we're in the home stretch, but things are starting to come together. So join me for the finishing. Let me explain how this all works out. You can see I've got various pieces that are in the finished state. Okay, so here I have a nice side-by-side comparison here. This piece is finished, ready for assembly. Let me just show you the process for this. So usually when I'm finishing, I will start with an angle grinder and a 40 grit flap disc, which is pretty aggressive and leaves some pretty deep scratches. But I do find if you come in at a very shallow angle, you don't leave very deep scratches. If you go up like that, you're going to gouge into it, and that can be a problem. So I usually use this to start out, and that basically sculpts things down to what I need. This piece is got a lot of nooks and crannies, so pretty hard to get into. So I actually can't do the entire surface with this thing because I have to come in very steep. When I get into a situation like that, then I use the bench file, which is an air tool. It's got this finger-like appendage on there and I can get into tight areas. And for that I use a 60 grit abrasive, and that cleans things up nicely. So what I'm going to do with this is start with the 40 grit on the angle grinder, clean up when I can. I will switch to my 60 grit on here, and then I'm going to get a consistent grain line throughout the whole thing. I'll be able to do that, and then from there I go into a Scotch-Brite product, and usually I'll go back to the angle grinder and use the red or maroon Scotch-Brite, which is the medium coarseness, and then from there I can go to the blue. So wherever possible I usually use the angle grinder. It's got more bang for your buck, moves material a lot faster than the bench file, but the bench file can really get into the tight areas. So I'm going to go through the same process with that. I will use a red belt, maroon if you will, and then I will switch to the blue. So that's the process. Let me just demonstrate that in real time. So I'm partway through the process now, about 70%. I'm with the red Scotch-Brite here. I need to do the blue yet. And you can see that it is starting to clean up. I have not got to this level yet where I would have the blue belt on there and even everything out quite nicely. And you might ask yourself, am I going for a mirror polish? Good Lord, no. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to get a working finish. This is sufficient here, and then will be patinaed and then buffed out. I aesthetically not drawn to highly polished finishes. I always find them very chromy and just not appealing to me. Also problematic with something like bronze, which can scratch quite easily, and I just find that it gets scratched and scuffed up fairly quickly. So I like a rougher finish that doesn't show the scratches quite as much. Also, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, remember the context in which this is going to be used in a stadium or arena where it's going to be viewed from hundreds of feet away. So you're going for surface details that are applicable to its situation. Anyhow, listen to me ramble on. Now we've finally reached the exciting portion where we are going to assemble. I'm going to begin by putting these pieces on. And I'll be riveting this on using copper rivets. Actually, we're using solid copper round head, 3/16 diameter by 3/8 long, copper plane. There's no such thing as bronze rivets, not that I've been able to find, and copper is softer than brass. I did use brass on these here. I just find for doing awkward rivets, I'd rather go with something a little softer that's a little bit more forgiving. Yeah, makes sense to me, maybe not to you. So this should be straightforward enough for these side panels. It's going to get really interesting when we try to do the brim because we've got really limited access. Let's just see, shall we? All right, that was the easy part. Now things are going to get increasingly awkward. Let's see how the back brim goes on. It's all about access. Here I run into a problem in that this hinge is in the way of the rivet that I need to put in to here. So it puts me in quite a quandary. This side I've got a little bit of access, but I don't know if I'm going to damage it. On the other side, it's covering the hole completely. There's enough of a change there, that difference. So I think what I want to do is, if I can get a pin in there to hold that in position, maybe I will get a rivet to do that, that I can hammer this out of the way without crushing the cylinder for the hinge. That's my plan. Let's see if I can make that happen. All right, I've inserted a bolt in there. Hopefully that's going to hold the shaft in place. Now what I want to do is tap it out of the way. And then hopefully I'll be able to tap it back into the way. Get the rivet in, the rivet set. And I might have to come in. Okay, now let's see if I can just tap this thing back into place. Holy shit, I think this might actually work. I'm off to fight a fire in Sheffield now. All right, so you can see the patina is coming in. I still need to fuss with this for probably another half hour. Then we'll put the crest on and I'll get this padded up to wear, and we are done. See you in a bit. Quick thanks to Sculpt Nouveau. Love your products. Okay, and we're done at long last. Here we are. So I'm going to call this about 150 hours. I lost track in the second half of this thing, but quite a number of hours to put this together. It's an elaborate helmet. There's a lot happening here. Quite happy with the way it came out. It's got some really dynamic lines to it. The way I'm understanding gladiatorial combat is that these were in the arena, they're being viewed from 100 feet, 200 feet back or more. So you're looking for spectacle, so you're looking for something that's quite eye-catching. And I think that is probably part of the design on this. Not being someone who's done combat for quite a number of years, to me, it just seems this solid crest is more of a limiting factor and kind of a liability rather than any sort of asset. This is just something that can get caught and banged. This thing is also quite a heavy helmet, and it's going to really be working on your neck when you're wearing the whole thing. So I'm curious to hear your comments below. I'd like people to weigh in, but I want to give a caveat. I often get some fairly dogmatic armchair historians who seem to know a little something or think they do and are willing to die on their hill about their particular thing. I'm hoping that if you're making comments that you have some level of expertise and can kind of state why you know what you know and where you're coming at it from. I think there's certainly an interesting discussion to be had as to why the design is what it is and how it was used and that sort of thing. But I only have very surface level knowledge of the design of this, but would love to hear your feedback on that. I'm also assuming, I often ask, do you want me to create the rest of the outfit? I'm thinking specifically that sleeve thingy, I'm not even sure what it's called, with the little fan plate that comes up there and everything. I could add that and maybe put this together as a whole. Caution, I already know the answer. You're in the comments, you're gonna say yes. So maybe we'll just go ahead and plan to do that. Give me about 6 months. I gotta get rid of some of this fat here. I gotta get lean and mean and into more of a gladiator sort of look as well. So maybe we're currently right now in January. Maybe by August, September, I'll have a nice tan. Might be 15 pounds leaner. I might be able to pull this off. So let's plan for that, shall we? In the meantime, though, I really want to hear your feedback on this. I'm quite happy the way this came together. My whole mandate on this one was to try to use historically plausible construction techniques without any TIG welding or any such things like that. So the way the whole thing went together could have been something that was constructed during year zero, the Roman Empire. So I just want to know what you think of this. Is it outlandish? Is it nice? Is it practical? That's it. This was a really fun project. I really enjoyed this one, but quite a challenge, a lot going on. And we'll just sign out now and get a couple more beauty shots. That's it for me. Thanks. See ya!